What's good, everyone? It's your boy Nati with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMV Sports Zone, and I'm here on this very, very late night episode on the DMV Sports Zone channel where I'm going to be talking about good old Contorious Lopez Jones, or as many of you like to call him, Julio Jones, who has been on the trade market, but officially earlier Monday basically confirmed the whole situation on Undisputed and a weird sort of phone call that was actually taken live on air with Shannon Sharpe, the legend, the NFL legend, who of course does Undisputed with good old Skip Bayless. But yeah, so basically confirmed it, and also confirmed that it's not interested in Dallas Cowboys as a potential destination. But then again, this is a trade that we're talking about. He's likely not going to be released by the Atlanta Falcons, so definitely takes two to tango. So we'll see if the Dallas Cowboys pony up and give up some draft compensation or maybe some players in a deal to ultimately secure the rights for Julio Jones, which is definitely a Dallas Cowboys type move, or at least a Jerry Jones type move, if we're going to be honest, right? Giving up all that draft capital, potentially picking up a $15.3 million cap hit this upcoming season, and already having a lot of money spent on a whole assortment of skill makers on that offense, and only adding another one when you also have defensive needs. It definitely seems like a Dallas Cowboys type move, but that's besides the point, right? Of course, because I want to talk about the Washington football team, the fit of Julio Jones here in DC. And I personally think Julio Jones should definitely not be a member of the Washington football team by the time the 2021 season comes around. And it pains me to say this because Julio Jones is an absolute beast, or at least he was at his absolute peak. 6 straight seasons of 1,400 yards plus in the NFL. Absolutely absurd. In my opinion, it was between him and Antonio Brown who was the best receiver in the league for a good 6, 7, 8-year period. It was absolutely absurd. Who can forget the amazing catch that he had in the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots? He basically took that Atlanta Falcons offense on his back and tried to will it to a win, but ultimately, of course, they gave up a 28-3 to more so that defense, and Tom Brady and the Patriots won that matchup, and Atlanta unfortunately hasn't recovered since. But it's tough. A lot of people forget, though, he only played 9 games last season, and he had his worst season in a very long time, which is kind of crazy because he still had 770 yards on 51 catches and 3 touchdowns. But it was his worst season, was injured for 9 games, and even when he was healthy, right, available to play, wasn't very healthy, wasn't 100%, and that's been the theme over the last couple of years, really, even when he had almost 1,400 yards a couple of years back. But he also, again, commands that $15.3 million cap hit, or at least about $15.3 million. It depends on how much the Atlanta Falcons are still going to be on the books for when they ultimately, hopefully, decide to actually trade him. And we shall see. We shall see with that. But I just think here in DC, it just doesn't really make too much sense. Even if the Atlanta Falcons wait until June 1st and give themselves some salary cap relief, which they desperately need. They have needed for a couple of years now. Washington, Ron Rivera, we already signed Curtis Samuel in the offseason for about $11 million per year. Terry McLaurin is going to command big money in relatively short order. Dyami Brown looks like a very good rookie receiver who I hope to talk a little bit more about as the offseason goes along, because I'm super high on Dyami Brown, much like I was on Antonio Gibson last year when I was comparing him before anybody to an Alvin Kamara type back. I can see Dyami Brown absolutely break out this year, potentially supplant Curtis Samuel on the outside by maybe week 7, week 8, or maybe even earlier while Curtis Samuel moves over to the slot. But again, we have plenty of offseason to talk about that. But with Julio Jones, I just don't see Ron Rivera potentially giving up draft capital, right, when you could potentially save that draft capital for a quarterback like a Deshaun Watson, who right now is still dealing with his off-the-field allegations, but it does look like things are clearing up for him. So we shall see there. Or maybe an Aaron Rodgers, who, I don't know if you guys saw that interview late night with Sports Center. Definitely, I mean, he seemed a little bit more comfortable than he was early in the offseason with remaining a member of the Green Bay Packers, but we shall see there. I'm not like one of those people who thought that Washington should not trade for Aaron Rodgers because he's getting up there in age and he has that big salary cap hit. He's Aaron freaking Rodgers. He won the MVP last year, not 2-3 years ago. last year. He's arguably the best player in the NFL. I would definitely pony up to give the Packers all the draft capital that they want. Do not want to give up Montez Sweat or Terry McLaurin, who I know was mentioned a lot of trade offers that were posted online and stuff. But if the trade offer is right, I would do it. But again, with Julio Jones, if you're potentially going to give up trade capital for draft capital for a quarterback down the line, it just doesn't make sense to go after a guy like Julio Jones, even with the talent that he has. I mean, it would be great to see him paired alongside Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, De'Ami Brown, who's, again, next up. I really believe De'Ami Brown and his potential in this league. That's going to be a scary, scary offensive skill core, which is kind of crazy after the last couple of years where Washington's wide receivers have been absolutely, besides Terry McLaurin, have been absolutely abysmal. So, I mean, it would be great. At the same time, when you combine age, he's 32 years old, right? He isn't getting any younger. With injury history, which has been pretty extensive over the last couple of years, man, he just hasn't been able to stay on the field. And just overall fit, right? We're a young team. We're trying to get younger. I believe we've only have 4 or 5 players on the roster right now that are over 30 years old, and I believe 2 or 3 of them are actually specialists. So that tells you how young this roster really is. I just don't see the fit. And again, I'm a Julio Jones fan. I've always been a Julio Jones fan, but I just don't see the fit here in DC. And I think Washington would be better served keeping its young roster intact, not giving up the draft capital, unless the Falcons get desperate and it really only takes a 3rd, 4th, maybe even later round pick, right? We saw with the DeAndre Hopkins situation with the Texans and the Cardinals. Cardinals only had to give up a 2nd round pick for a guy who was in his prime and arguably the best receiver in all of football. And I get a lot of that had to do with his scuffle with Bill O'Brien at the time with the Houston Texans, but at the same time, that is nothing, right? And Julio Jones is 32 years old, has an extensive injury history, albeit his peak, I would say, was higher than DeAndre Hopkins, if we're going to be honest. I mean, he is getting up there in age, so he likely won't cost as much, maybe a 4th round pick. And also, if you combine that with the Falcons potentially taking up a good part of his salary, Washington has done a very good job with trading 4 guys from other teams where those teams have been willing to pay a good portion of the salary cap hit. We saw that with Eric Flowers, with the Dolphins, and some other players really in years past. So we shall see there. But if that doesn't happen, if the offer is it's just too good, if not too good to be true, then I think Washington should definitely not pony up and trade anything substantial for Julio Jones and should stay pat, really, and look towards the future. And 1 year of Ryan Fitzpatrick this year, hopefully, fingers crossed, it's just 1 year, and hopefully that year goes spectacular and we get a lot of more Fitz magic than Fitz tragic, which I know Corey loves to talk about his channel because Ryan Fitzmagic hasn't been too Fitzmagic over the course of his entire career, but over the last couple of years has been pretty good and has sort of turned a corner a little bit. So, but with Julio Jones, once again, I just don't see Washington trading for him, and I just don't necessarily want Washington to trade for him again unless that trade offer is just too good, right? So with that being said, I do want to mention one other guy, though, that I don't think is getting a lot of love in this offseason, who Washington might look to trade for, or actually isn't even a trade target. He's actually a free agent still, and KJ Wright, who is formerly of the Seattle Seahawks, of course, who's a linebacker. I get it. We just got a guy in Jamin Davis who's likely a defensive rookie of the year candidate already. I'm super on Jamin Davis as well, much like I am of De'Ami Brown, and really a good part of this draft class as a whole. But I mean, to add a guy like KJ Wright alongside a Cole Holcomb, alongside a Jamin Davis, would be a great boost to this linebacker core. But then again, he's also getting up there in age, didn't have the greatest of seasons last year, so I get Ron Rivera potentially not looking into him as a potential new member of the Washington football team. But bringing it all back around to the Julio Jones situation, again, I don't think Washington will actually trade for him. I don't know if I necessarily want Washington to trade for him, but him alongside a healthy Julio Jones, alongside Terry McLaurin, De'Ami Brown would be great. but it's just very unlikely to happen with the way the last couple of years have gone for Mr. Contorious Lopez-Jones. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I am so tired, but I wanted to give you guys this content, this much deserved content, because I know you guys have been sticking with this channel, watching on the live streams every single week, and I thought might as well make this video as I go into finals week. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the DMV Sports Zone channel, where we try to post fire content on here as much as possible. Also, go follow our Instagram page, all lowercase DMV Sports Zone, and our Twitter page at DMV Sports Zone, where we try to post fire content on there even more than on this YouTube page. So if you think this YouTube page might get dry at times, trust me, go follow our social media pages. You guys will love it. And again, I appreciate you guys' support as always, and hopefully a lot more content to come, you know, maybe in a couple of weeks when school's over, once all this testing is over. But yeah, thank you guys once again for the support, and have a great rest of your week, and hopefully that live stream will come in short order. And yeah, man, we also, speaking of DMV sports, I know we got the Wizards who are going to play game 2 against the Philadelphia 76ers Tuesday night. Hopefully they can capture that W. I know last game Russell Westbrook didn't play too well, and our defense wasn't too well when it came to stopping or at least limiting Tobias Harris, who went off for I believe 37 points, and Joel Embiid, who always goes off. But still, when you have both of those guys, it's going off is very tough. So we shall see. Hopefully the Wizards get that W, but yeah, and hopefully make this a very, very good series. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and see you on the next one. Peace.